episode of Other Items of Interest. I am your host, Jack Zablocki. On today's episode, we learn how not to smuggle a baby orangutan, and someone finally puts to rest all this flat earth nonsense. That someone is the Flat Earth Society. All in today's Other Items of Interest. This next article comes to us from the Moscow Times, comrade. My fellow comrade listener. Yes, this comes from the Moscow Times. Naked Russian man tries to board plane, claiming to be more aerodynamic. I think that's as good a reason as any to get naked at the airport. A naked man attempted to board a plane at Moscow's airport. Well, there's a bunch of words in here, a bunch of Russian words that I'm not going to pronounce properly. I might just skip over them altogether. Like the name of this airport. It's Domodedovo Airport. Well, it's in Moscow, so I'm just going to call it Moscow's airport. Naked man attempted to board a plane at Moscow's airport while shouting that clothes make him less aerodynamic, the REN TV television channel reported. And that's a weird thing. REN TV television channel. REN television channel. That's what we're saying here. Anyway, they reported on it Saturday. The man passed through the Ural Airlines flight's registration before suddenly stripping off his clothes and running stark naked into the jet bridge, eyewitnesses said. A fellow passenger was quoted as saying, "He shouted that he was naked because clothing impairs the aerodynamics of the body. He flies with more agility while undressed." The man was apprehended and arrested and taken to a hospital. Believe it or not, people didn't think any alcohol was involved. They didn't think he was drunk or anything. That's what gets me about this article. The Russians, from what I've heard, having the blood of a Russian in my body, it's often alcohol that fuels the fun. Anyway, I hope he gets his help and his clothes back. This one comes from the New York Times. Man arrested after drugged orangutan is found in Indonesian airport. Drugged orangutan, not just any drugged orangutan, kind of like a little baby drugged orangutan. Adorable, except for the drug part, I guess. You don't need to drug animals, unless they're party animals. Officers on the Indonesian resort island of Bali found a primate the size of a human toddler curled up in a rattan basket this weekend, in the middle of an international airport. At first, we thought it was a monkey, the head of the quarantine office at Bali's international airport told the Jakarta Post newspaper. The officers were afraid to open the basket, he added, because they assumed that the animal would be aggressive and run loose in the departure area. Why not the arrivals area? I guess it doesn't really matter. It turns out that the 2-year-old primate was a sleeping orangutan. Officials say it was drugged and then smuggled into the airport on Friday by a Russian tourist. The Russian deliberately used an inhumane method to take the orangutan to Russia, Mr. Dua said. He's a quarantine official. The Associated Press identified the suspect as Andrei Zestkov. He told the Indonesian authorities that he had purchased the orangutan for $3,000 from a market on Java, the country's main island, after a friend said he could bring it home as a pet. Don't listen to your friends. Your friends are idiots. Always. I'm somebody's idiot friend. You're somebody's idiot friend. All friends are idiots. Don't listen to your friends. Especially when they tell you to buy an orangutan off the street and then drug it and smuggle it back to Russia. Mr. Zeskov's suitcase contained allergy pills wrapped in plastic. He said he had fed the animal allergy pills mixed with milk, causing it to lose consciousness for up to 3 hours. The suitcase also contained 2 live geckos and 5 live lizards. Mr. Zeskov, 27, could face up to 5 years in prison and $7,000 in fines for smuggling. Here's an update of interest, if you'd like. Previous episode, we covered a story about a New Jersey man who stabbed his boss 53 times, killing him because he believed he was a werewolf. New Jersey man's werewolf murder trial ends without a verdict because the jury can't decide whether he is insane. There's not much to the article. It's nice to have an update. But a jury has deadlocked and a mistrial has been declared in a Northern Virginia murder case in which the defendant, a New Jersey man, said he thought his victim was a werewolf. So that's that. First update for the podcast. That was exciting. I mean, the whole story is terrible. Somebody died. But as far as podcasts go, I got to do an update. Hot diggity damn. Following comes from KXAN.com. 45 rattlesnakes found underneath West Texas home. 45 rattlesnakes. 45 of any kind of snake, no thanks. A homeowner in West Texas received quite the shock when 45 rattlesnakes were found underneath his home. Big Country Snake Removal says that the homeowner went under the home because his cable wasn't working properly. That's when he saw a few snakes and quickly crawled out. He called the company and they found 45 rattlesnakes under the house. 45 rattlers! The interesting thing here was they only see a few each year. Their yard was very well kept and their house was nice and clean, the owner of the company wrote on the Facebook post. My point is, we run into this scenario often and people don't think it can happen to them. Rattlesnakes don't care how nice your house is or what kind of car you drive. They care simply about survival. I think I'll just leave it at that quote. That's not even the worst removal the company's seen. 3 years ago, they removed 88 snakes from underneath the home. So this was kind of a commercial for that company that's mentioned in the article. It's not much more than that. It's like a slow news day type article. I'm not sorry that I read it, but yeah, I'm sorry I read it. This was a waste of time. Next article. This one comes from clickorlando.com. It is a Florida story. Florida man cited after Florida lemur bites Florida woman on Fort Lauderdale beach. A Florida beach. Floridian wildlife officials say Albert Marrero didn't have license to exhibit lemur. You need a license to show off your lemur in public, apparently. A Fort Lauderdale man has been cited for parading around an unlicensed lemur that bit a woman last month on the beach. Alberto Marrero, 53, received 7 second-degree misdemeanor citations stemming from the February 24th incident on Fort Lauderdale Beach. I think I called him Albert Marrero originally, but it's Alberto Marrero. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't change your life any. I'm just trying to be correct a little bit for once. Yolanda Jacobs and some friends were walking on the beach when she saw a man with a lemur on his shoulder taking pictures with people. Jacobs said one of her friends paid the man, later identified as Marrero, so she could take a picture with the ring-tailed lemur on her shoulder. When it came time for Jacobs to take her picture with the lemur, she extended her hand to steady the lemur on her shoulder, and the primate bit her, breaking the skin. Although Marrero told Jacobs the lemur was up to date on its rabies shots, he later admitted to state wildlife officer that the lemur had never been vaccinated. Oh man, Alberto, what are you doing? According to the FWC report, Marrero didn't have a license to exhibit the animal and was keeping it in an unapproved cage in his apartment. Among the charges for which Marrero was cited were keeping the lemur at an unapproved facility, exhibiting the lemur without required permit, maintaining the lemur in a manner resulting in a threat to public safety, and not having a proper enclosure. Alberto, Christ almighty. I don't know if you should really be owning a lemur. I don't know. I'm very disappointed in you, Alberto. Very disappointed. This one comes to us from thestate.com. That state being South Carolina. Drunk driver sprayed Axe body spray in his mouth to mask the smell of alcohol, South Carolina deputies say. I almost said South California. There's no South California. Yet. A man charged with drunken driving in South Carolina was spraying Axe body spray in his mouth when deputies approached in an apparent attempt to mask the odor of alcohol. Deputies pulled over a vehicle on Saturday night after the driver passed a deputy at a high rate of speed and swerved into another lane of travel, according to the Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office incident report. The driver was spraying Axe body spray in his mouth when the deputy approached to cover the smell of alcohol in his breath, the report states. There was a 12-pack of beer on the passenger floorboard, and 11 of the 12 beers were open. 10 of the beers were nearly empty. He's in trouble. I think that goes without saying. This next item of interest comes to us from abcnews.go.com. ABC News. Headline reads, creator of Jelly Belly releases cannabis infused jelly beans. Each bean is infused with 10 milligrams of cannabidiol. I don't know if I'm ever saying that right, cannabidiol. Anyway, that's not THC. It's the stuff that makes you kind of like mellow and eases pain and whatnot. Jelly bean aficionados will now be able to experience something stronger than a sugar rush. The creator of one of the most recognized brands of jelly beans has debuted a line of cannabis-infused sweets for candy lovers to enjoy. Last month, Candyman David Klein, responsible for the creation of Jelly Belly's jelly beans in 1976, announced the founding of his new company, Spectrum Confections, that will offer the treats in 38 flavors. The company tests each recipe to ensure that the correct amount of cannabidiol, or CBD, is added to each bean, according to their website. Every bean is infused with 10 milligrams of CBD, and Spectrum Confections does not process CBD with a higher content than 0.3%, the company said. Kind of weak, if I do say so myself. I'd rather, I'm just going to get a bag of Jelly Bellies and smoke weed and do it that way. Forget the jelly beans. I don't even need those. Back to the article. Customers 18 and older must provide their own CBD. You got to provide your own CBD, along with a lab report so the company can make sure they are compliant with laws in handling your product. Orders are processed within 2 weeks, the website states. Some vendors have been selling the beans for about $2 each, according to Spectrum Confections. The company only processes bulk orders with a minimum of 800 beans and are currently sold out. Due to recent media attention, our inventory has been depleted, the website announced. How about that? There's going to be pot in everything one day. I just know it. I mean, there's already soda and drinks and stuff like that. There's other foods, and I've seen powdered milk infused with pot and jelly beans now. From phillyvoice.com, Verizon worker suspended for rescuing cat stuck on telephone pole. Oh, Verizon. This story looks bad for you. Not gonna lie. Why would I lie on this show? I have nothing to gain from it. Verizon employee Maurice German was working in Port Richmond last week when neighbors approached him about Princess Mama, a cat that had been stuck on a telephone pole for more than 12 hours. Princess Mama. This man saved Princess Mama, and he got in trouble for it. Apparently, the cat's owners, who had been trying to retrieve the cat since early hours of the morning, allegedly put in calls to Animal Rescue, the fire department, and PECO unsuccessfully. I don't know what PECO stands for. Philadelphia something or other. So, armed with a company lift, German agreed to help. Apparently, the company's safety training mandates equipment only be used in certain areas, and German used the lift in an unauthorized area. We take no joy in this job action, Verizon spokesperson Rich Young told CBS Philly. However, we're committed to responsible keeping our employees and customers safe while working in a particular area. Boo! Boo! A GoFundMe was created by a bystander on Friday to support the employee, who's now being dubbed a hero. By Sunday, the crowdfund had already exceeded its goal and raised nearly $3,000. Well, I'm glad the guy got some money for the 3 weeks he's not working because he did a good thing. Verizon, on the other hand, not looking so good. Here's one of the stories that gets your blood boiling just a little bit. It's from Cincinnati.com and the Kentucky Enquirer. A northern Kentucky man parked to offer food to a panhandler. An officer ticketed him. That's right. An elderly man's sign caught Morris Sword's eye. Homeless and hungry, it said. It was a chilly midday in February, and Sword and his wife were driving to lunch. You see somebody hungry and you're getting ready to get something to eat. It's like, Sword said in an interview with the Enquirer. That's the Kentucky Enquirer. So he decided to buy a 6-piece chicken meal with fries and a diet soda for the man. Sword estimated he was about 70 years old. Sword, a 51-year-old auto salesman who lives in Independence, chose diet soda because he wasn't sure if the man had diabetes. Isn't this the sweetest dude? He headed back towards the man's spot. As he stopped and his wife handed the food through the window, a Florence officer approached. The officer asked Sword to pull into a nearby gas station. Sword tried to explain his intentions, but the officer cited him for stopping on a limited access highway, a traffic violation. I support the men in blue and have respect for our court system, Sword said. But I think the ticket was extreme. So did Rick Scott, a Covington-based attorney who offered to represent Sword pro bono. Scott said the ticket could run about $50 plus approximately $130 in court fees. Sword pled not guilty. Scott, the attorney, said he will pursue the dismissal of Sword's ticket. A trial is set for April 5th. I think what I was doing was community service, Sword said. I'm not paying a fine. I'll plead not guilty and have my day in court. To me, there's no option. You fight against what's wrong. This other item of interest comes from the Ballywick Express, Jersey News. Jersey as in the UK, not New Jersey. Very different places. Minecraft Bibles donated in bid to boost religious education. Minecraft Bibles. At a time when religion is at an all-time low among Jersey's youth, church groups have looked to a popular video game to get children into the Bible. To give children the building blocks of Christianity, local schools were recently gifted Bibles inspired by Minecraft. The unofficial Bible for Minecrafters, Stories from Bible Told Block by Block, recreates Bible stories, including the Garden of Eden and Noah's Ark, in 3D form and is meant for children ages 7 to 11. This is a hard name to say altogether. Reverend Beverly Sproats. Doesn't seem like it would be hard. The Reverend part. A lot of R's in there. Reverend Beverly Sproats of St. John's Parish Church, which contributed 30 Bibles to St. John's School, added that the comic book style made the stories more accessible. Okay. It's a problem when your religion is inaccessible to newcomers. The council says the Bible is used to explore many themes during religious education lessons and help students to understand key religions like Judaism and Christianity, but not any others. The initiative comes as religion among Jersey's young people has hit an all-time low. Well, yeah, maybe because you're ruining Minecraft for them. Ever think of that? All right. From the Star Online, Colombian woman dies after 5-hour non-stop drug-fueled sex. I guess it's really not all right if somebody died. A 32-year-old unidentified woman in Colombia died after engaging in 5 hours of non-stop sex, which was reportedly fueled by drugs. Now, it said a 32-year-old unidentified woman, but now this next line says, the woman known by her nickname, La Fiera, or the Beast, said she felt unwell during sex. So she's either unidentified or she's La Fiera, La Beast. She later had a cardiac arrest, El Periodico, via The Sun reported on Wednesday, March 20. I couldn't pronounce El Periodico. It's period Ico. It's very simple, but I couldn't do it. I don't know what that says about me. You make your own judgments. Let me have it. Partner had called for emergency help, but said it took too long to arrive. He then wrapped her up in a sheet and took her to University Hospital del Val? The University Hospital. Doctors pronounced her dead upon arrival. It was then discovered that she and her lover had been taking drugs to prolong their lovemaking, which they had for 5 hours nonstop. Like nonstop, not even a drink of water. Nobody went to the bathroom. Little snack. Nonstop 5 hours. I don't believe it. Prove it. I don't know. It was reported that detectives were trying to determine whether or not the drugs caused her death. And that's that. The Beast. From ITV.com, headline reads, man was mistakenly circumcised in mix-up at Leicester Hospital. A mix-up, just a mix-up. Just a little mix-up. We didn't know what we were doing. We got mixed up. No, this is a big fucking accident. You circumcised a dude. You cut the tip of his dick off. A man was mistakenly circumcised at one of Leicester's hospitals. The patient was meant to be having a cystoscopy, a procedure to look inside his bladder using a thin camera. Those are two way different procedures, aren't they? The error was revealed in a report produced by the Clinical Commissioning Group compiling so-called never events, named because they're largely preventable and should never happen. There were 8 incidents at Leicester Hospital last year. I'm going to skip to the end of the article here. They've given 8 never events to happen at hospitals ran by University Hospitals of Leicester NHS Trust in 2018. These are events that should never happen at a hospital, but unfortunately have. A swab was left in a child who had an adenoidectomy, a surgical procedure to remove tissue from behind the nasal passages. Next, wrong patient surgery. 2 patients with similar name notes merged into one, meaning the wrong person had an operation. Ay, ay, ay. Next, a patient consented to the wrong surgery due to the consent process not being adequately robust. I'd like to know more about that one. 2 cases of unintentional connection of patient to requiring oxygen to an airflow meter. I don't understand what that one means exactly. A patient had a wrong site angiogram. Failure to learn from a previous never event was listed as the contributory factor. Wrong implant prothesis. The wrong side hip nail was implanted in a patient. Maybe if you know somebody in the hospital, you send them the article from the show notes. Cheer them up a little bit. My boss farted on me and bullied me at work, lawsuit claims. This one comes from the New York Post. An Australian engineer who claims his colleague repeatedly farted nearby and thrusted his bum at him is hoping his bullying claim is successful on appeal. David Hinkst, 56, from Melbourne, has sought $1.8 million in a suit against his former employer, Construction Engineering, but a judge blasted the case out of the Supreme Court last year, finding there was no bullying. I didn't add that in there. That's the New York Post joke. Okay, and at first I was going to be like, oh, nice journalism integrity and all that. Journalistic integrity, excuse me. But I'm just jealous that I didn't think of that. Anyway, the judge blasted the case out of the Supreme Court last year. Hinkst's appeal came before the Court of Appeal on Monday when he said flatulence was a form of bullying, and his ex-colleague Greg Short was a serial farter. Imagine being labeled a serial farter in the court. That's something that stays with you. I would be sitting with my face to the wall and he would come into the room, which was small and had no windows, Hinkst told AAP after the hearing. He would fart behind me and walk away. He would do this 5 or 6 times a day. He thrusted his bum at me while he's at work, Hinkst told the panel of judges. But the appeal judge also heard Hinkst had called his colleague Mr. Stinky on occasion. And he sprayed deodorant at him, Justice Philip Priest said. Okay, the guy's farting on you. When you're 10, that's your recourse to spray deodorant at your farter. In any case, Justice Priest said farts were not the key issue in Hinkst's original claim, as it had focused more on the phone calls. And this doesn't get into the phone calls, this article. But Hinkst said the flatulence had caused him severe stress and should still be taken into account. So this guy might get an appeal on his case. Is being farted on bullying? If it's, continuous, discuss that amongst yourselves. This other item of interest comes to us from Tech Times. Flat Earth Antarctica cruise will depart in 2020 to sail to the edge of the world. Are they coming back? Will they be coming back from the edge of the world once they find it? Conspiracy theorists who think the Earth is flat are organizing a cruise to Antarctica in a bid to prove that our planet is not a sphere. The cruise, organized by the Flat Earth International Conference, is scheduled for 2020. The plan is to sail to Antarctica, where the flat earthers think they would find the frozen barrier that marks the edge of the world. Several theories exist within the flat Earth community, but the common belief is the Earth is flat. Yes, that is the core belief within the flat Earth community, that the Earth is flat. I think that's been established. One of the movement's popular models of our planet's topography is the Earth is a large disk surrounded by an ice wall barrier in Antarctica that prevents things from falling off the planet's edge. Like fish. Can't have fish swimming off the edge of the planet now, can we? Got to put a barrier up. The ice wall is believed to surround the whole planet. Conspiracy theorists say it's a couple of thousands of feet thick and stands 164 feet. The Earth is surrounded on all sides by an ice wall that holds the oceans back. The ice wall is what explorers have named Antarctica, the Flat Earth Society claims. I don't claim any of these things. Let's just get that out in front. These are not my beliefs. Here's a dose of reality, though, from Henk Keijer. That's Henk, Henk, instead of the usual Hank. Must be Scandinavian, with a name like Keijer. Not that it's important. I found it interesting. Maybe you do too. If not, we'll just move on. Let's move on, okay? Henk Keijer, a former cruise ship captain who has sailed all over the world, said nautical charts are designed with the principle that the Earth is round. He pointed out that the global positioning system, which provides navigational and positional information, relies on 24 satellites because of the curvature of the Earth. The flat earthers may also have difficulty finding a cruise ship staffed with crews who think our planet is not round. I have not encountered one sea captain who believes the Earth is flat, Keijer said. I think that's a good thing. Dose reality. Sometimes is a good thing. And that's that. You've listened to another episode of Other Items of Interest with Jack Zablocki. I am Jack Zablocki. How about that? Works out well for everybody. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Have a good night, have a good day, have a good morning wherever you are, whenever you are. Peace out. Right? Is that what the kids say? Bringing it back.